Hello everyone, and a very good afternoon to all. I am Ridul Mishra, and on behalf of Care Ratings welcome you to a live webinar on steel industry. Care Ratings sincerely appreciate your time in joining us for this webinar. To take you further on this, may I introduce our speaker for today, Ms. Bhagyashree Bhati. Bhagyashree is based out of her Mumbai office, is working with Care Ratings as a research analyst. She is a part of the industry research team. The webinar discussion will be in form of a presentation which is visible on your screen. In case of queries, please key in your questions in the slot provided. Bhagyashree will take the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. I repeat, in case of queries, you are requested to key in the questions in the slot provided. We'll be having a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. May I request Bhagyashree to begin the session?
Yeah, good afternoon everyone. This is Bhagyashree Bhati. I'll be taking you through the webinar, steel webinar. Starting with the presentation, we'll begin with world crude steel production. Till 2013-14, it was India that was the fourth largest crude steel producer in the world. But then in 14-15, India surpassed USA to become the third largest crude steel producer in the world. It was not just in 2014-15, but also in 15-16 and 16-17 that India continued with this position. When you hear of world crude steel production, the first country that comes to your mind is obviously China, because this country dominates the steel market and it accounts for 50% of the world crude steel production. During the period April 2016 to Feb 2017, the output in China stood at 743.7 million tons. And in Japan and India, it stood at 93.6 million tons and 89.1 million tons respectively. Just have a look at this chart. Here you will see that China accounts for major production in the world. As I said, 50% of the production. Next is Japan, followed by India, USA, Russia, Korea Republic, South. It should be noted that during this period, among the major producers for China, Japan, US and Russia, the production increased in the range of 0.8 to 3.5% and it declined for South Korea Republic by 0.5% on a year-on-year basis. But for India, crude steel production grew by 9.4% among the major producers mentioned here. It was similar was this case in 2000.
The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
I'll start again.
Hello everyone, and a very good afternoon to all. I am Ridul Mishra, and on behalf of Care Ratings welcome you to a live webinar on steel industry. Care Ratings sincerely appreciate your time in joining us for this webinar. To take you further on this, may I introduce our speaker for today, Mrs. Bhagyashree Bhati. Bhagyashree, who is based out of her Mumbai office, is working with Care Ratings as a research analyst. She is part of the industry research team. The webinar discussion is in the form of a presentation which is visible on your screen. In case of queries, please key in your questions in the slot provided. Bhagyashree would take the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. May I request now Bhagyashree to begin the session?
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. This is Bhagyashree Bhati. I'll be taking you through this webinar. Starting with world crude steel production. Till 2013-14, India was the fourth largest crude steel producer. But in 2014-15, India surpassed US to become the third largest crude steel producer. It was not just in 14-15, but India continued with this position in 15-16 and 16-17 as well. When you hear of world crude steel production, the first country that will come to your mind is obviously China, because the production in this country accounts for 50% of the total world production. During the period April 2016 to Feb 2017, the output in China stood at 743.7 million tons, and that in Japan and India it stood at 96.3 million tons and 89.1 million tons respectively. Just have a look at this chart. During this period, as I told you, that China accounts for like 50% of the world production, and it is followed by Japan, India, US, Russia and Korea Republic. To be noted thing is that during this period, China, Japan, US and Russia production in these countries, the crude steel production increased in the range of 0.8 to 3.5%, and it declined for Korea Republic by 0.05% on a year-on-year basis. To be noted is that in spite of this, the crude steel production in India grew by 9.4% among the major producers. It was the case also in 15-16, where the crude steel output had a fall for all the countries, but it was still a marginal rise for India. It grew by 0.9%. Now just have a look at the category-wise production of long. Just have a look at the production of long and flat products in India. These are the production figures. These are the production figures as you can see on screen. We have different varieties of steel produced, like long products and flat products. Both the kind of products are used in the manufacturing, infrastructure and construction, engineering and other kind of sectors. Also you can see that the crude steel, this chart shows you the total crude steel production in India over the years. In the year 2012-13, crude steel production stood at 78.4 million tons. It grew by around 4% to 81.69 million tons in 13-14, and that it increased further by 9%, by around 8.9% to 88.9 million tons in 14-15. However, in 15-16, it was a marginal rise of 0.9%. This was majorly due to weak demand situation, weak global demand situation, and also during this period, the imports from China had increased. So this has also affected production. For the year 2016-17, the data for is available till April-Feb, and as of this, the production increased by 9.4% on a year-on-year basis, and it stood at 89.1 million tons. Now let us take a look at the production outlook for 2017-18. The growth momentum that was there till April to Feb 2017, like it grew by 9.4% the production. This momentum is expected to continue even in the current year 2017-18. We are expecting steel production to grow by 8 to 10%. This will be backed by increase in infrastructure allocation by the government in Union Budget 17-18. This because the infrastructure allocation stood at 3.96 lakh crore, and it is a year-on-year growth of 10.5%. And this is expected to drive the pace of construction and infrastructure in the country. Apart from this, the National Steel Policy 2017 released by the government also aims to increase steel production. In this policy, the government has stated that it wants to increase India's crude steel production to 300 million tons by 2030-31. Now, to support its ambitions, the government has undertaken various initiatives so as to increase domestic steel consumption and thereby production. Some of the initiatives are mentioned below. This includes Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana, Make in India campaign, encouraging the use of Made in India steel for various projects. Also spending in areas of railways, roads and urban development. Seeing the government's initiatives, the domestic companies have also increased their production capacities. Now we have seen so far the production trend and the production numbers. Now let us have a look at the production of steel that takes place in India through different routes. It is basically there are these routes available in India for manufacturing of steel. First is blast furnace, blast oxygen furnace, and the other one is electric arc furnace, induction furnace, EAF, IF. Now in the blast furnace includes those producers, those are the ones which large integrated steel making facilities. And the major raw materials used by these producers are iron ore and coking coal. Under electric arc furnace are those producers which are small steel producers, and the raw materials used by them are sponge iron, melting scrap and non-coking coal. Now here you can see the route-wise production share of steel for April to December 2016. For this period, the production through these routes have been this much. Like say for example, from BF-BOF route, the production share was 43%. 31 million tons was produced by this route. Through EAF, it was 29%, that is 21 million tons. Through IF, it was 28%, that is 20 million tons. Now so far we had discussed about production. Now let us have a look at the prices. Beginning with the prices, we'll start with the prices in China. As already stated that China accounts for 50% of the world production in steel. So the movement of prices in China have a kind of direct impact on the steel prices in India. So here this is the HRB price index for China. Now here you can see that the index has declined from 100 to over has declined from 100 to till December 2015. Like you can see that it has declined, or it was a constant decline. So from Jan 2014 to December 2015 the prices were on a fall. But from January 2016, or you can say from the early 2016, the prices started showing an improvement. Majorly the fall during this period was on account of weak demand, global weak demand, also overcapacity in China and increased exports from China. These were the major reasons for the fall in prices. But in the early 2016, growth stimulus provided by the Chinese government and also increased activity in the real estate helped the prices to increase. And then the prices have shown an improvement. Similar was the case with domestic prices. Like here you can see that the prices which were on the rise over here have declined, and the prices started improving from from Jan 2000, from Feb, or you can say from March 2016 onwards. Majorly it was because of the imposition of MIP, that is minimum import price, that encouraged the producers to produce more, and which encouraged the producers to government support, and thus the prices started showing an improvement. Also during this period, like in this period, there were uh, there were imports, there were imports from China, which also did not go well with the Indian prices. Apart from weak demand, apart from weak global demand and the international prices. Now, when you look at these prices of late, they they had shown some improvement. Like if you see in the month of January 2017, the prices had improved. Like actually it was in December 2016 that the steel companies were planning to hike steel prices by around rupees 6,000 per ton from January 2017. Majorly the reason was the rise in coking coal prices. Actually the coking coal prices started rising from July 2016, and this had created a cost pressure for the steel companies. So in the month of January 2017, the prices were hiked by rupees 355 to rupees 235 2350 per ton for the varieties mentioned above in January 2017 on a month-on-month basis. While they had decided to hike the prices by around 6,000, but it did not go well, and so the prices were the increase in prices was kind of rolled back, and so the prices for HR and CR varieties declined in each of the months next to January 2017. Like in March 2017, it was a month-on-month fall. But for the bars rods variety, the prices increased in each of the months during Feb to March 2017. So you see, while the companies had planned rupees to increase the prices by rupees 6,000 per ton, they did increase the prices, but then they rolled it back again since it was not getting absorbed in the market. And also the steel prices that you have seen so far have not reached still the levels of 2014. Besides this rise in cost pressure, also there was Cyclone Debbie that distorted exports from Australia towards the end of March 2017. It is very likely to delay exports from the country by 2 months. The cyclone affected shipments from Queensland, producer of more than 50% of the world's seaborne coking coal. Now the coking coal prices in turn, because of this cyclone, the transport in coking coal was disturbed, and in turn coking coal prices surged to 300 US dollar per ton. Now in India, around 70% of coking coal requirements are met through imports, and thus this can have an impact on the steel prices. So you saw that the steel prices that saw an increase were again rolled back, and the coking coal prices had increased in the previous months. So it is very likely that the companies will start passing on the rise in input costs, but it will be once when the domestic demand for steel starts to gain momentum. Actually, the domestic demand had remained very subdued during the period April 2016 to Feb 2017. Actually, the demand grew by only just 2.9% to 90.8 million tons. And when the domestic demand was subdued, the companies tried to increase their exports during this period. Now you can see over here, like in all the months of 2016-17, the exports were on a high, except for the initial few months. And the country tried to reduce its imports during this period. This was obviously supported by the government measures like the minimum import price imposed by the government, which helped the producers to increase their steel production and thus reduce imports. So here also you can see that for all the months the imports have declined on a year-on-year basis. Some of the measures taken by the government to reduce the imports were this. On 5th Feb 2016, the government imposed minimum import price on 173 steel products ranging from $341 to $752 per ton, and this was for a period of 6 months. After completion of these 6 months, the MIP was further extended for 2 months till 4th Feb 2016. In October 2016, this was again extended for 2 months till 4th December 2016. The MIP was advanced again till 4th Feb 2017 for 19 steel products. After this, the government announced that there would be no extension of MIP on 19 color-coated steel products. So you see, the government had helped the domestic industry. Here it was 173 products, though it helped in phases, like it was there for 173 products, the MIP. Here it was reduced to 66 products and then 19 products, and later on the government announced removal of the MIP. However, after the removal of MIP on the 19 color-coated steel products, the government by 2 months extended the anti-dumping duties on hot-rolled and cold-rolled flat products of alloy or non-alloy from specified countries including China and South Korea. So this measure still continue to protect India from cheap imports. So we have seen that the government took certain measures to increase the to reduce the imports, which in turn helped the producers to increase their production, and which in some ways also helped the steel prices in India to improve. But just have a look at this chart as well, where you will be able to see that in the year 16-17 how the trend in import and export has changed. Just for example, see, in the year 2007-2008, India was a net importer of steel, and then it continued to remain a net importer of steel till 2012-13. But in 13-14, India became a net exporter of steel. And again in 16-17, as we saw that exports were more for India for all the months, and in this and the previous year 16-17, India turned out to be a net exporter of steel. So thus the measures taken by government to reduce the imports helped the industry. But we cannot expect that this protection will last forever, and the industry will have to gear itself to face competition in the normal course. Thank you.
Thank you, Bhagyashree. Dear participants, we would be now taking a break of 2 minutes before we come back to take your queries. You are requested to please start in keying your questions in the slot provided. I repeat, we are taking a break of 2 minutes before we come back for our Q&A session. For any queries, you are requested to start keying in the questions in the slot provided. Thank you. Hi friends, we'll be starting our Q&A session now. The first query is coming from Kopal Chima. She's asking, has the government cancelled the hike in steel prices applied in January 2017?
Hi Kopal. Actually, it is not the government that had cancelled the hike in steel prices applied in Jan 2017. I think it is actually rolled back by the steel companies because the market was not able to absorb the rise in steel prices. Actually, the demand was not that good, and so it was in the favor of the steel companies to roll back the steel prices, hike in steel prices.
The next query is from Manjeet Saini. He's asking, just want to check if the if ADD on steel products has been confirmed for longer period of time. If yes, which all products are covered?
Hi Manjeet, you asked if anti-dumping duties on steel products has been covered for a longer period of has been confirmed for a longer period of time. No, actually, the anti-dumping duty on steel products has not been confirmed for a longer period of time. There is no official release on this thing as of now. Thank you.
Kopal is again asking, now that the MIP has been removed and the anti-dumping duty will also be gradually removed, what measure do you think will be taken up to reduce imports?
Hi Kopal, to your query, actually I think that the government has as of now been encouraging made in India steel. So during such phase, like when the government is encouraging made in India steel, the government would want the producers to and increase their production or in any ways promote domestic production so that it can be used for the manufacturing or any other processes. And also the government had tried like in the year 2016 to reduce imports. So I think the government will take measures like this, the Made in India Steel campaign, making Made in India Steel thing. And the government has also asked the steel players to do something good on themselves. Thank you.
There's a query from Mr. Rohan Nambike. Rohan, we can take your question number 2. The steel demand in India is expected to grow by 5.7% in 2017. What all necessary steps need to be taken to ensure the expected growth is met with?
Hi Rohan. What all necessary steps need to be taken is what I can say you is that the government has taken various initiatives, like I've already mentioned some of them. So very likely that these initiatives taken by the government will increase the demand for steel. And when it increases the demand for steel, I think it will indirectly help your consumption to grow, and which may help the steel demand to grow by 5.7% in 2017. Thank you.
We have a query from Kopal again. She's asking, how will China's decision to reduce their steel production impact the world markets, also India?
Hi Kopal, you asked how will China's decision to reduce their steel production impact the world markets. Actually, China is the largest producer of steel, and also their production capacity is like around 1,200 million tons. And of this, the production which they roll out is around 800 million tons. And in the year 2017, like they have told that they will be reducing the production by around 50 million tons or so. So this is a kind of positive sentiment that will come because of these largest producing countries saying that we will reduce our production. So obviously anything which China does has an impact on the steel market, because it is the largest producer of steel in the world. Thank you.
Hi, we have a query from Mr. Kaushik Shekhar. He's asking, what is the effective capacity steel in India, and what is the elasticity of steel growth to GDP growth rate at 7%? At 7% GDP growth rate, in how many years will all the domestic capacity be used up?
Hello, Kaushik. You asked about the effective steel capacity in India. Actually, the effective capacity, like say for example, in the year 15-16, we had around in 16-17, say for example, the total steel production in India stood at around like 90 million tons, whereas the capacity is close to around 120 million tons. So here you can see the consumption, I mean to say the capacity utilization rate. Also the things, also capacity utilization is being generally in the range of 70 to 75%. Now the second question that you have asked is about the GDP growth rate. Generally, steel has an output multiplier effect of like 1.4 times. So if your GDP is growing at 7%, then you can assume that steel production would be like 7 into 1.14. Thank you.
The next query is coming from Mr. Rohan Nambike. He is asking 2017 is expected to be a good year for the steel industry. And the second part of the question is how has the year so far been in the first quarter?
Hello Rohan. Your question 2017 is expected to be a good year for the steel industry. I would say certainly yes, because like for some portions, yeah, say for production and consumption, yeah, it will be a good year because we are expecting production to grow and this will be backed by the increase in demand. So yeah, on production and consumption front, like on the prices front, the steel prices have so far not been so much up, but then we do expect the prices to move up once the demand once the demand for steel starts picking up. Now you have asked how has the year so far been in the first quarter. The production numbers are not yet out for this year, but the steel prices for the month of April have not that, like the increase for TMT bars. For TMT bars, there is a month-on-month growth in the prices, but for the HRC and CRC, the month on the month the prices have not increased on a month-on-month basis. They have been a marginal fall, but yes, for TMT bars, it was a rise. Thank you.
We have some clarification wanted by Kaushik. He's asking is multiplier 1.14 or it's 1.4?
Hi Kaushik, it is 1.14. Thank you.
The next question is coming from Mr. Varun Saraf. Is asking, how do you see the realizations prices in steel during FY 2018 to move post considering the MIP has been revoked completely?
Hi Varun. The realizations, like already said in the presentation, that there was input cost pressure by the steel companies that they have faced, but they were unable to pass on the rise in the pass on the rise in the input cost. So certainly, I think like when the demand starts picking up, they will obviously pass on that rise in pass on that rise in input cost to the consumers. And so ultimately it is only that the demand uptick that will help the prices to improve. So once that happens, the market will be able to absorb the rise in the input price, and then the prices will mostly rise. Thank you.
There's a query from Pallav Agarwal is asking, what would be the impact of the sharp decline in Chinese and CIS steel prices on Indian steel prices?
Hi Pallav, as we have already seen in the chart that in the year 2014 and 2015 the steel prices in China were much on a fall, and same got reflected in the steel prices in India as well. So there is a relation because most of the steel is produced in China, and it generally happens like that. The major producer do dominate the market situations, and so anything that happens in China will certainly have an impact on India. I mean to say, if the movement in Chinese steel prices will have an impact on the domestic steel prices. Thank you.
We have a query from Mr. Naresh Singh is asking, can you give some numbers for import of coking coal by India from Australia?
Hi Naresh, your query is about some numbers for import of coking coal by India from Australia. Uh, Actually, in the year, like so say, in the year 2014-15, around 47 to 48 million tons of coking coal was exported by Australia. Of this, 23 million tons of coking coal was exported to India. Generally, it is like 50% of India's coking coal requirements are fulfilled through Australia. Thank you.
We have a query from Mr. Manohar is asking, why do we have to import coking coal when we have coal mines in India?
Hi Manohar. Uh, Actually, the domestic quality coal has higher ash content and it is not good for steel production. Also, the coal mines lack good quality and that is to be used for steel production. So we have to depend on imports for coking coal requirements. Thank you.
We have a query from Mr. Suleiman is asking, what is the application of HR and CR flat products?
Hi Suleiman. The HRCR flat products, actually the flat products are generally used in manufacturing and also in automobiles. So this would be the like basic the application for these products. Generally, this is the application for these products. Thank you.
I think with this we're coming close to the session. Thank you again to all participants for taking the time out and being a part of this care ratings webinar. We hope the discussion was insightful and look forward to your participation in future. For any further queries, suggestions, feedback, you are requested to write to us at cop.com@careratings.com. I repeat, for any further queries, suggestions or feedback, you can please write to us at corp.com@careratings.com. Thanks. Goodbye for now.